Alright folks, buckle up because today we're diving into some seriously wild prison escape stories. You know, the kind of stuff that sounds like it's straight out of a Hollywood movie, but it actually happened. We're talking about ingenuity, desperation, and a whole lot of balls. These are the stories of people who were so determined to break free. They risked it all, and in some cases, pulled off the seemingly impossible. Get ready to have your mind blown. Alright, let's start with the granddaddy of them all, Alcatraz. This infamous island prison located in the chilly waters of San Francisco Bay was designed to be the ultimate fortress. It was a place where the most notorious criminals were sent, a place from which escape was deemed impossible. This place was supposed to be inescapable, surrounded by freezing water, strong currents, you name it. The waters were so cold that hypothermia could set in within minutes, and the currents were strong enough to sweep even the strongest swimmer out to sea. But in 1962, three dudes, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin said, "Nah, we're good." These guys weren't just any prisoners, they were some of the most cunning and determined individuals to ever be incarcerated at Alcatraz. They'd been chipping away at the ventilation ducts in their cells for months, using spoons, whatever they could get their hands on. It was a painstaking process requiring patience and precision. They had to be careful not to attract the attention of the guards. And get this, they made dummy heads out of soap, hair, the whole 9 yards, to fool the guards during head count. These dummy heads were so realistic that they even had paint to mimic skin tones and real hair collected from the prison barbershop. So, on the night of their escape, they slip through these tiny holes, make it to the roof, and then, they disappear, vanished. It was a meticulously planned operation, executed with military precision. The official story is that they drowned, but there's never been any conclusive evidence. Despite extensive searches and investigations, no bodies were ever found, leaving the door open to endless speculation and theories. Some people believe they made it to shore on a makeshift raft made out of raincoats. This theory suggests that they used over 50 raincoats stitched together and sealed with heat to create a buoyant and durable raft. Raincoats, man. Think about the ingenuity, the desperation. These guys were willing to try anything, no matter how crazy it sounded, to get off that rock. They even fashioned makeshift paddles to help them navigate the treacherous waters. They were willing to risk it all for a shot at freedom. Their story has become the stuff of legend, inspiring countless books, movies, and documentaries. Whether they made it or not, their daring escape remains one of the most fascinating tales of human ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of freedom. This one is just insane. You won't believe it until you hear the whole story. We're talking about a prison break that wouldn't be out of place in a die-hard movie. Imagine the most intense, edge-of-your-seat action sequence you've ever seen. It went down in France, 1986. The streets were bustling and life seemed normal, but something extraordinary was about to happen. This guy, Michel Vaujour, he was a convicted murderer, facing a long stretch. He had been behind bars for years with no hope of getting out anytime soon. But Michel, he had a wife on the outside, Nadine, who was ride or die. She was fiercely loyal and determined to do whatever it took to reunite with her husband. She took flying lessons, learned how to fly a helicopter, all to get her man out. It wasn't just a whim. She meticulously planned every detail, knowing the risks involved. So picture this. It's a sunny afternoon, birds are chirping, and then, a helicopter buzzes over the prison courtyard. The inmates look up, confused, wondering what's going on. It lands right there, in the middle of the yard. The guards are caught off guard, scrambling to understand the situation. Michel, he's ready, jumps in, and they take off. The whole thing happens in a matter of seconds, leaving everyone in shock. The guards, they're just standing there, jaws on the ground. They can't believe what just happened. It's like something out of a movie. I mean, who expects a helicopter to just show up and pluck a prisoner out of the yard? It's the kind of thing you only see in Hollywood blockbusters. This is some next-level Bonnie and Clyde stuff. Their daring escape became legendary, a testament to their love and determination. Of course, the authorities launched an intense manhunt. Police were on high alert, scouring the country to track them down. The media went into a frenzy, with headlines blaring about the audacious escape. It captured the public's imagination, turning Michel and Nadine into infamous figures. For a while, they managed to evade capture, living on the run. Their story became a symbol of defiance and the lengths one would go for love. It's a tale that has all the elements of a thrilling drama: love, danger, and an unbelievable escape. Straight out of Hollywood indeed. You ever see that movie Shawshank Redemption, you know, the one with Tim Robbins? Well, this story is like that, but real life. This dude, Frank Abagnale, he wasn't just a master forger, he was an escape artist too. Back in the 60s, he was locked up in a federal pen and he decided he wasn't going to stay there. So what does he do? He starts digging. For months, man, this guy chipped away at the concrete floor of his cell with a spoon. A spoon! He hid the dirt under his bed, flushed some of it down the toilet, got real creative. Eventually he digs this tunnel, crawls through the prison's sewage system and just walks away. They didn't even realize he was gone for hours. Talk about patience and determination. Chapter 4. The Disguised Visitor, Blending In with the Crowd. This one is all about blending in, becoming invisible. It's about mastering the art of not being noticed, of slipping through the cracks in plain sight. Imagine walking through a bustling city, surrounded by hundreds of people, and yet no one really sees you. That's the essence of blending in. We're talking about a guy named Ronald Silva, who was serving time in a California prison. Ronald wasn't just any prisoner. He was known for his cunning and his ability to think on his feet. He had a reputation for being resourceful, always looking for a way out. Now Ronald, he was a smooth talker, a real charmer. He could win people over with just a few words, making them feel at ease and gaining their trust. This skill was crucial for what he had in mind. He managed to convince one of the guards to let him use the prison phone to call his lawyer. This wasn't an easy feat, but Ronald's charm and persuasive nature made it possible. The guard, thinking it was just another routine call, didn't suspect a thing. But it wasn't a lawyer on the other end of the line, it was an accomplice. They had been planning this for weeks, going over every detail to ensure nothing would go wrong. The accomplice was just as cunning as Ronald, ready to play his part to perfection. They'd cooked up this plan where the accomplice would show up at the prison disguised as a lawyer, complete with a suit, briefcase, the whole 9 yards. The disguise was flawless down to the smallest detail, and it worked. The guards didn't suspect a thing as the lawyer walked in. The accomplice walked into the visiting room, swapped clothes with Ronald and just walked out. It was a seamless operation executed with precision. Ronald, now dressed as the lawyer, blended in perfectly, walking out of the prison without raising any alarms. They didn't even realize it was the wrong guy until hours later. By then, Ronald was long gone, having vanished into the crowd. It was a daring escape, one that relied entirely on the ability to blend in and become invisible. Ronald Silva had mastered the art of disappearing in plain sight. Chapter 5. The Breadbox Escape, Hiding in Plain Sight. This one is just wild. We're talking about a guy named Alfred Hines, who escaped from prison not once, not twice, but 3 times. And one of those escapes involved, get this, a bread box. You heard me right, a bread box. Alfred, he was working in the prison bakery, right? So, he gets this idea to climb into one of the big metal bread boxes they use to transport bread around the prison. He figures they're not going to check inside a bread box, right? So, he gets in, someone closes the lid, and they load him onto the truck. Chapter 6. The Sewage Tunnel Escape. The Price of Freedom. This one is not for the faint of heart, folks. We're talking about a prison break that involved crawling through some seriously nasty stuff. It went down in Mexico at a maximum security prison. A group of inmates, they decided they'd had enough. They knew the prison's weak spot, the sewage system. So these guys, they get their hands on some tools, and they start digging. They dig for weeks, man, through concrete, dirt, and yeah, you guessed it, sewage. The smell alone would have been enough to make most people give up, but not these guys. They were desperate. Chapter 7, The Fake Identity, Becoming Someone Else. This one is all about identity, about becoming someone else. We're talking about a guy named Ferdinand Waldo Demara, Jr., who was a master of disguise, a real-life chameleon. He escaped from prison by creating a whole new identity for himself. He managed to get his hands on some documents, birth certificates, the whole 9 yards, and he used them to create a fake identity. He then used this new identity to apply for a job as a prison chaplain, and it worked. They hired him, and he just walked out of prison in a priest's collar. Chapter 8. The Rope of Bedsheets, a classic for a reason. This one is a classic for a reason, folks. It's the escape method you see in all the movies. We're talking about a rope made of bed sheets. It's simple, it's effective, and it's been used successfully countless times. You take your bed sheets, you tie them together, you find a way to secure the rope to something sturdy, and you climb down. Of course, it's not as easy as it looks. You need to make sure the rope is strong enough to hold your weight. You need to find a way to get over the prison walls, and you need to do it all without getting caught. Chapter 9. The Smuggled Tools. Where there's a will, there's a way. This one's all about resourcefulness, about using what you've got. We're talking about smuggling tools into prison. It's a risky business, but it's essential for a lot of escape plans. There are all sorts of ways to smuggle stuff into prison. You can bribe guards, you can get visitors to sneak things in, you can even get creative with the mail. Once you've got the tools inside, you can start working on your escape plan. Chapter 10. The Guard Uniform. The Ultimate Disguise. This one is about the ultimate disguise. The guard uniform. If you can get your hands on a guard's uniform, you can pretty much walk out of prison. Of course, it's not as easy as it sounds. You need to make sure the uniform fits, you need to act the part, and you need to have a plan for what you're gonna do once you're outside. But if you can pull it off, it's the perfect escape plan. You'll blend right in with the guards, and no one will suspect a thing. Outro until next time, stay free. So there you have it, folks. 10 of the weirdest, wildest, most ingenious prison escapes ever attempted. These stories are a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure, to hope, and to escape even the most seemingly inescapable situations. It makes you wonder, what would you do if you were in their shoes? Would you risk it all for a shot at freedom?